Welcome everyone to Rhymes That Resonate, where we explore the soundtracks that accompany extraordinary lives. I am joined by my good friend Brandon Plunkett, Army veteran, master of social work, um, adjunct professor, and unfortunately a Denver Nuggets fan. Go Warriors! And so I've spent a lot of time with Brandon in the past, and Brandon, I just want to just welcome you and thank you, and please tell the people about yourself.
Yeah, well, first off, thanks a lot for having me on this show. I want to say before I even talk about myself, I want to say I've been waiting for this invite for probably like I don't know, maybe about a year, and it's finally come. So I am thankful for you to finally make it on the Rhymes That Resonate, and to everybody that's watching. Yes, my name is Brandon. I am a licensed social worker in the state of Colorado. Definitely go Nuggets, 100%. I'm feeling a little concerned and worried about them this year, but that's okay. That happens sometimes.
Hmm.
On the side, I do a little bit of teaching and yeah, definitely hanging out with my family, walking the mountains in Colorado, and just a lover of music.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting because when we were working together, we didn't really talk about music much, but every now and then, we'd slip in a bar here and there. And I'm realizing now, in hindsight, like how connected you are with music. And so I appreciate you bringing that, and bringing just your focus on mental health and family to the show and to the world, and sharing that with us. You provided three songs: Star Shopping by Little Peep, Nas If I Ruled the World featuring Lauryn Hill, and Both Sides of a Smile by Dave and James Blake. And I just really want to get into it. And like I guess we start with Star Shopping by Lil Peep. Uh, what
Let's get into it.
what about that song was like the reason why it was the number one on your list of songs to provide for the show?
Man, there is so much history and so much detail in this song. And the interesting part, we never talked about this, even when I don't know if everybody knows or not, but we both served at the United States Army Drill Sergeant Academy at one
He
point.
said it.
That's right. And man, that's probably where I actually like gained my passion for this song. During that time, like as you know, my daughter was dealing with cancer, so she was going through cancer treatment. She had to get a bone marrow transplant, and this was at a very young age. And what is interesting is when I was in the military, I had this thing to where I always felt like I had to be the best. I had to be present. I had to do this. I had to do that. I had to fit the mold of what I believed a good soldier looked like.
Hmm.
And then being at the drill sergeant academy, right? You know, everybody there is like type A personality, like
Hmm.
top tier, 100% engaged. And me, I kind of had very mixed emotions and mixed feelings because while everybody there was like 100% focused on producing drill sergeants that would go out and shape the nation across the army, I was split
Hmm.
because I had a daughter who was dealing with a life-threatening disease.
Hmm.
She had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it just for me like I was constantly distracted.
Hmm.
A- And one thing that I like, it's really weird. Like I'm a social worker now, so I kind of understand a little bit, but I haven't even changed completely myself. But
Hmm.
one thing that will always stick with me from the drill sergeant academy, regardless of anything that I've ever accomplished there, anything that I felt like was worthy and worthwhile. One of the things that I remember most is when I went up to give one of our presentations. You know,
Hmm.
we had our speeches. I hate the fact that I even remember part of this. The next position, which I'll name, explain, have demonstrated, which you will conduct curriculum work on. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's it.
I hate that I remember that to this point. But you know, we did it so often
Yeah,
and so common that
yeah.
it's just something that's just like I still remember it.
Hmm.
But one day, actually, I had spent the night in the hospital with my daughter. And I was up there. I was gonna go present. I went up there and I completely like just like froze. Like I
Mhm.
froze on stage. Like it's
Yeah, I
like
remember that day. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And see there it just like it was significant. Like that had never happened before. That was never something that uh, I had experienced personally. I heard about
Mhm.
it, people doing it, but I never experienced it personally. And I just remembered like just feeling shame, embarrassment, and
Mhm.
like damn, like what did I just do? Like
Mhm.
I just completely fucked this up. Like this is just not um this is like the end of the world.
Mhm.
And to
Mhm.
me, it was um it was just a moment of shame, embarrassment, guilt, and something that I say like I remember more than anything else during that time.
Mhm. Wow. And it's man, thank you for sharing that. I mean, especially, in the context of it all. Again, I remember that day and that environment, like you said, was one where, everybody or it feels, right? After being there long enough, I'm going to tell you it feels like
Mm.
everybody is, always 100. And there's very little grace, on the surface. And I remember, like, in that moment I was like, oh man, and I've had one of those moments too, completely different circumstances. But like, to put some perspective on what you were doing before that. I mean, you didn't share that with us. You just kind of kept your head down and kept driving on, which to me is another sign of a high performer, which is, hey, not making excuses and just going. But I think in that environment, which um, at the time, I don't know what the environment is now, but just environments like that where it doesn't feel like you can get the grace to make a mistake. Um, it's hard to even feel like bringing up your reasons why, valid reasons why is worth it. Um,
Right.
and so, like, I appreciate you did. I mean, that changes my whole, I mean, it's all forgotten anyways, but not forgotten, but it's all forgiven anyways,
No,
but
it's
like,
forgotten.
I remember running. I was running one day at the academy, and I looked up one day, and it was a beautiful, beautiful day, right? Beautiful morning. Like, the sky was, pastel pinks and purple. The sun was rising. This omelet smell was in the air. You know,
Right.
and I looked around. I said, like, this is important now. You know what I mean?
Right.
But in 100 years, nobody will. This won't be as important as it
Right.
is to me right now. You know what I mean?
Ex-
And looking at that beautiful sky really put it in perspective that, like, there's so much more out there than, like, what we're experiencing right here. And I think your story just really kind of like hammers that home.
Yeah, 100%. I'm so glad that you mentioned that perspective shift, and I'm gonna come to that. I promise. So back to the song, though, "Star Shopping Little Peep." So
Mhm,
during that time, there were like shortly after that, there was a period where I was gone for probably like 30 days or something like that.
mhm,
That was while my daughter was where we were at. They didn't have the medical facilities to actually treat her cancer, so I would have to go to Charleston, which is like 3 hours away or something. I can't remember how far away it
mhm,
is, but that's where she actually had to get her bone marrow transplant. And on that ride, like I was listening to Little Peep Start Shopping. I had heard it before, but like for some reason it hit different. Like sometimes like you go back, you listen to something, and it's like it just hits different.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
and it hit different on that ride, and I started actually listening to the words. I started listening to like the tone, the feeling of the song, and I really connected with it because if we listen to the song and we actually like listen to the lyrics,
mhm,
uh, my interpretation is Little Peep in that song was speaking to the fact that he didn't feel worthy at first in the beginning of the song. Like
mhm,
he's talking about how I know I'm not that important, but I'm working on it ultimately.
Mhm.
It's kind of
Mhm.
like the theme of the song. Like, I know I'm not that important, but I'm working on it. And as
Mhm.
the song proceeds, like he starts to acknowledge like his worth, his value, and why it is that he's important, while also acknowledging, the community that helps to keep him built up and
Mhm.
supported. And it just really hit me. It's just one of those songs where I don't know if it's like super profound of a song, but it's the time and
Mhm.
it's the moment,
Mhm.
where I learned where I took a huge shift in my perspective of what was important in life,
Wow.
because no longer was it like, man, like my job is like the most important thing, which, I had a very unhealthy relationship with work where it was like, okay, my job is everything, my job
Mhm.
is my
Mhm.
life. But when you have a child that's potentially not going to survive to see their teenage years, it really puts into perspective for me what's important in life.
Yeah.
And that song was just like really the song that was resonated with me the most during that period.
Man, I will tell you that like that really like it's pulling on my heartstrings. It's really aligning with because like I wrote, my like takeaways from the song were like there was a sense of distance, especially in the beginning, right?
Yeah,
And hope, but also certainty, right? So, kind of like what you said, as he kind of progresses and recounts all of the ways that the community supports him and like the people support him and whatnot, the people in his life are there for him or not, whatnot. It kind of he becomes more certain about what he's doing and how he's doing it. Um, and when I heard it without the context of why you chose it, I felt that distance and that hope and that certainty. And one of the lines I picked out was, "If I find a way, would you walk with me?"
yeah,
And now putting it together with the context, brother, oh my god! Because I mean,
yeah,
as a father myself, I couldn't imagine. Those are literally like some of the worst, thoughts that go past my head is like, what happens if, you know,
yeah,
and you were living through that, and there is a certain distance of knowing that you can't do it for them, right? You can't
right,
fix it for them, but if you find a way, would you walk with me?
yeah.
Oh
That,
man.
yep. And the bars that like that is an amazing one. Another one that I picked out during that time is like, all of the stars have a reason, right? A
Mhm.
reason to shine. Like, it's
Mhm.
like, we no matter how bad you're feeling about yourself, no matter how unworthy you may feel, like, you are important, you
Mhm.
matter. And the grand scheme of things, kind of like, man, I remember those omelets at the defag over at
Mhm.
man, that uh, kind of like the moment that you had. It's like everybody has a reason. Like, we have things that we value that we think are important in the moment, but we really just have to take time to kind of honor ourselves, our value, those that we care about,
Mhm.
those that have a place in our life. Like, they all have a reason.
Yes, yes. And I think that's a part of that mental maintenance, right? Mental health maintenance and like your path of becoming a social worker and being involved a bachelor's in psychology. Do you think any of those experiences led you to those fields, or did those fields lead you to understanding the world in that way?
I will say that my social work degree is 100% has shifted the way that I think, on life in general. It really has helped me to align with like a more holistic view of life and the impact of systems on individuals and
Hmm.
communities. But what I believe, like, really in that time impacted my mentality and my shift was just really that brush with the fragility of life.
No, man, it's interesting you bring up the word fragility because that's written down in the show notes. So, we'll get to that. But man, that's so profound. And like you said, it may not be, and I think that's the beauty of the music we listen to, right? It may not be that the song or the lyrics or whatnot are all that deep, but it's the meanings we draw from it in those moments. Sometimes it is a moment, and those
Yeah.
moments are important. Um, I think about and I probably shared it with you. Like Two Chains is one of my favorite rappers. To not necessarily tell people I listen to, right? Not because
Right.
there's anything wrong with Two Chains, but like some of his it's fun, right? And
Right.
it's just funny,
Hmm.
and it's not necessarily that it's deep or anything like that. It's just like, and I like those deep conversations. I like those deep lyrics, which we're gonna get into next with your next song. But it's sometimes it's just the songs are fun, and in certain moments you need that fun, or you need that moment of clarity, or that whatever the case may be. And sometimes the songs provide those moments, regardless of the content.
Right. 100%. I agree. Like, take no shame in Two Chains. Two Chains has some of the most profound lyrics, which I won't share at this time. But
Mhm.
it's he's an amazing artist. But like you
He's
say,
he's an
it really
amazing
is about
lyricist.
how it connects with you. And yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's an amazing lyricist, so nothing against Two Chains.
Mm,
And I think it's great when we talk about amazing lyricists that the next topic is Nas. If I Ruled the World, featuring Lauryn Hill. A classic amongst most of the hip hop fans I know.
mm.
And man, just tell me a little bit about why you chose this song.
Uh, Yeah, so Nas is definitely one of my favorite artists. You and I have had several discussions about King's disease or one, two, three, whatever.
Ooh.
And yeah, not Nas is really just like really one of those artists where he kind of like transcends generations. He's
Mhm,
relevant today. He was relevant yesterday,
mhm,
and really just an artist that I could not imagine having a top three without having a Nas song. Like it
mhm,
doesn't have to be if I ruled the world. Like really, you could pick one of about 20 different Nas songs
mhm.
for it to be in my top three.
Wow.
But I had to represent Nas in here. Now I will say I was a little concerned when I did put in Nas because I know he has a close relationship with Diddy, so I didn't know if I would get like canceled or anything if I put it in there. So
No, we're
we're,
good. We're good. We're in the fight.
at a minimum, we're doing it at at least an artist standpoint. I don't
Yes.
know anything about his personal life or anything. All
Right.
right, so don't cancel me for loving Nas.
Nah, nah,
But
nah. You're in the fight.
that song to me, it is a song that represents hope.
Mhm,
It represents a desire for just like a better life, better circumstances. It acknowledges that there are variances between groups and demographics with privilege and those that don't have privilege,
mm,
and kind of expounds on this utopia where some of us that are in marginalized groups could live in a world where there's uh, unilateral acceptance,
mhm.
there's unilateral love, and there's just this understanding of worth of this group and these people.
You know, so for before the show, I told you about how like I felt like this conversation was going to be highly intellectual,
Mm,
and I think for that purpose, I'm going to go ahead and say what I just heard from you, right? Which
mm,
is we're talking about hope, and idyllic sense of equality and equity, right? Which right
yeah,
now seem to be bad words, right?
right.
And I don't quite understand why treating somebody equally and equitably is a bad thing. And so, when you talk about unilateral acceptance and unilateral treatment, that's what we're talking about, right? Or at least that's what I interpret you talking about.
Yep,
Um,
100%.
which really lends to the question that I was going to ask about this song, and I'm going to ask it is, what aspects, if any, are still relevant today of this song?
Uh, Man, a lot of it is relevant, but I'm trying to remember exactly how the lyric goes. Maybe because you could be poor, or rich, or uh,
Mhm. That line was one that I felt was gonna come up, and I was like, well, I'll let him do it.
I can't remember exactly how it goes, but
Yeah.
it starts out with something else. Because you can have all the chips, be poor or rich, don't nobody want to have his shit,
Mhm.
right? And we can fill in that blank that I left out. Like
Mhm.
that really resonated to me, and I'm gonna tell you a story about this.
Mhm.
So again, that huge Denver Nuggets fans, right?
Mhm.
So my wife and I, we have season tickets to the Denver Nuggets. We go to a lot of games. Same seats, same section, same place every time.
Mhm.
My wife is a doctor, right? Me, she owns her own company. Me, like I teach at a college. I'm a
Mhm.
licensed social worker, right? So, and I feel like the narrative that I spread is that I'm a pretty trustworthy person. I'm a pretty, I wouldn't say just like important person, but I'm somebody who is giving back to the community.
Mhm.
I'm somebody who is just a consistent person.
You're not a ward to
And
society.
right, right, 100%. But uh, going to the Denver Nuggets games, um, there have been moments where uh, groups of people have been let into the section because we said like club levels, right? So
Mhm.
club levels, like they have people, people want to feel important and exclusive, so they do club level, whatever.
Mhm.
And so you have ushers that are checking your tickets, checking whatever, but have witnessed like ushers just shoo groups and groups of people through and stop my wife and I to make sure
Mm.
that we're sitting in the right seat, to
Oh,
make
wow.
sure that we're where we're supposed to be, and that we haven't snuck into this section of the arena um, unjustly or as we shouldn't have.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
if there were one line that I say of that entire song, like that song, like that resonates with me the most, because no matter how many degrees I have, no matter how much and intelligence I may think that I have, or that I've gained, or how much I've actually even done in the community through work to serve unhoused, to underprivileged. None of that matters on a eye test
Yeah.
level when it
Mhm.
comes to certain situations, and when that eye test happens, it's like I'm just another one of them. So
Mhm.
that's kind of the biggest thing that I feel like relates to that song with me
Yeah.
in current day.
You know, I feel you. And I it's unfortunate, right, that we can have this shared experience because I know we're not the only ones. Um, and I think the insult to injury, or it makes it feel like an insult to injury, right, is there's people who experience this every day in much more drastic ways, much more like tangible circumstances.
Yeah,
But both of us are plus 15, probably plus 18 years in the army, right? Served country, duty on our country. Are in the community, right? I work for one of the largest banks in America. Um, and I'm a philanthropist, right? Like that's my job in the bank is to support communities through grant making and volunteerism. But when I'm walking, and often even when I'm working in some of these spaces, I think to myself like, if I didn't have this this logo on me right now, or when I don't have this logo on me, it's a completely different look. It's a completely different feel. And then the other part of that is um, trying not to, I guess, fall into my own narrative that I'm making it up, right?
right.
And trying not to gaslight myself and saying that this doesn't exist, because when I take a moment to step outside of myself and look at the state of um, just our environment, our society, whatnot, it is very real. And again, calling it out, especially in times like now, seem to be a bad thing to do. So I appreciate you bringing it up. And I appreciate you sharing that, right? Because it's not easy as a black man to say that as a black man, this is my experience, and feel like it's going to be heard, right? And not only heard but respected.
Right.
And so, I think that that's important to just put a pin in. Before I ask you this next question, which is, what would the world be like if you ruled it?
If I ruled the world, man, that's a tough question. I've never even thought about that. I guess because in the back of my head, I've always been like that's not possible. What was Spice? That ain't logical. Like,
Hmm.
right? I'm gonna just take a shift. um, I don't know what would it look like. There would definitely be it would be in a world filled with equality and equity.
Hmm.
Um, there probably wouldn't be, um, you know, people wouldn't have their like favorite billionaires. Um,
Mm.
and basic human needs and functions would be met across the board. Um, yeah, I think that would be if it were a perfect world. Yeah.
For one, I appreciate the fact that you've never thought about it. Um, I've thought about the hypothetical, and
Hmm.
I think the easy answer is, or not the easy answer, but bottom line is, I wouldn't want to because that would almost be counter to how I view how the world should exist, anyways, right?
Right.
Um, there shouldn't be a ruler. There shouldn't be rulers.
Hmm.
I think governance is important, but I also believe self governance and communal governance are real things, right? I think about gun violence, right? Um, they make lawmakers, right? Not they, but lawmakers make more gun laws for people who abide by the laws.
Hmm.
But if you are operating outside of the law, then you're not worried about the laws that are created, right?
Right.
So, it's like the governance piece is, we have to agree at some point that this isn't okay. And unfortunately, humans could have chosen anything, and we chose debt and taxes, right? And I think that at some point, like, how did that happen? Is at some point we agreed on it, whether by raising our hands or by allowing things to happen without raising our fists. Um,
Yeah.
and so, I don't think we're going to be in a place of communal governance anytime soon. And if we are, I'm actually really, really, apprehensive as to what that may look like. Um, and so I do appreciate it. I think that song is incredibly relevant. I think it's about 30 years old.
Mm.
Which is the real kicker here is the fact that that song is so old. Not
Hmm.
even, but it's so old, but still
Yeah.
so relevant. Um,
Right.
it's almost kind of eerie. It is eerie.
Yeah.
Um, but I do appreciate you bringing it up again. A classic, something that I think a lot of folks who have heard it are gonna totally respect why it's on the list. And
Mm.
for those who may have not heard it, maybe hearing something that is very enlightening, or at least perspective challenging, if not shifting. Um, but when we talk about perspective, right? We also have there's two sides of it, right? And that I think
Mm.
leads right into your third
Yeah.
song, which is a banger. I've never heard this song before, and if you haven't heard of this song, "Both Sides of a Smile" by Dave and James Blake, I compel you, I encourage, I'm telling you, go listen to it from the intro to the last closing bars. It is an experience, and wow. Um Man, tell me about it and how it got on the list, how you came across it. Like, I need to know.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dave is one of those artists. Another one that's like Nas. Dave is a UK based artist, hip hop artist. A lot of people don't know about Dave. I think I first got introduced to Dave maybe like 3 or 4 years ago.
Mhm,
Um, and it was like his first album is called Psychodrama. One, I love the fact that it is the title connects to the mental health aspect.
mhm,
Another thing that I love about Dave is that he incorporates classical aspects into his songs. So I don't know if he's a classically trained pianist, But you will definitely hear a lot of piano throughout, and it really is a unique mix to mix that classical aspect with the hip hop and the R&B. Next, he's just a lyricist. Like
Mhm.
he has some of the craziest bars that I think that you will really find anywhere. And I just don't know why he hasn't like Central C. Like people in the U.S. know who Central C is at this point. At least a lot of people. But Dave is like he is like, in my opinion, that dude coming from the UK who has the bars. People know Central C, they know Stormzy, but Dave is like, to me, he's that top artist that is coming from the UK.
Mhm.
Now, both sides of a smile, like that song. It, like you say, it's a banger. So much to love about it.
Mhm.
One, it's a rhapsody, right? Like we got pretty much three different songs inside of one song. From
Mhm.
the title to the beginning to the end, like it's all connected. So both sides of a smile. We go through, the positive portion up front. We go through like an intermediate part in the middle, and then we go through the next part on the end. But what connected me most to the song is the fact that of how raw Dave is in it.
Mhm.
And I mean that in the sense of he can talk to and acknowledge like how great he is.
Mhm.
I love that aspect. But he can also talk to and speak to like the fact that he has like skeletons in the closet. Like
Mhm.
he,
Mhm.
like there's two sides to everything. There's two, like when we go out in the public, like I'm presenting my best person.
Mhm.
But when I'm at home, like you don't know what struggles that I'm going through, right? So we
Mhm.
we get we get this vision and we get this view of like I don't want to sound like arrogant or cocky or anything, but like people see my life and they're like, man, like what I like you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. You
Mhm.
don't know what skeletons I have in my closet. You don't know what I had to do to get here. And I just kind of love the fact that both sides of a smile um, goes through that aspects of that.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And from a listener standpoint, hearing it for the first time, I was actually excited to like listen to it again, right?
Hmm.
I was like, oh no, I got it. So like, I listen to songs multiple times when they're submitted, so I can get a feel for them, pull things out. Um, and I'm excited to listen to it regardless, right? So I'm not saying that,
Hmm.
but this one I was like, there were things about it that really like connected with me, and a couple of
Hmm.
themes that I pulled out were um trust, distrust, the fragility of it, right, of that thing, and love languages, right, like they talk about love languages in a way, um from the way he moves through his life and the way that his counterpart receives it, right? It's not the same, right? The
Hmm.
same action, different
Right.
results, different interpretations. Um, and so one of the things like that you mentioned, as far as he's talking about how great he is, but the skeletons, I really got the dichotomy of that exists when a person experiences cognitive dissonance, in the sense that they are thinking and feeling one way and interpreting the world one way, but they're living another, right? The actions and their reality is different than what they're internalizing. And seeing that there is a disconnect, and usually in between that disconnect is a gap, is a hole, is an emptiness. And I really felt that coming through the song, and it made me think like, for Brandon, right? What thoughts, feelings, or activities or circumstances like have to be present for you to look at and be like, you know what? I need to listen to both sides of a smile, or this is the song that most relates to what I'm doing or dealing with right now.
For me, it it kind of relates to my life with just like on a daily basis. On a daily basis, it's I'm I'm such for me I'm such like I can literally be like so many different people at the same time.
Mm,
I've gotten so much better since I've become a social worker. I went through like a depressive phase. I got on medication. I started going to therapy. Um, I kind of just I started working on me
mm,
deliberately, right? But people will some people will never know like who I was at my worst.
mhm.
Like even like some of my extended family, my mom, my dad, like they will never know who I was at my worst. Um, and it to me it really just kind of speaks to that fact of where it's like I think I'm a good person, but I did so many not great things.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and the song just is like it just really connects to me.
Yeah. I mean, and who hasn't? I think if you live the life where you can say, I've always been a great person who's done nothing but the right things, like either you're lying to yourself or good for you, right? Like, life is messy. Mistakes are a part of it. And I think for me at least, I totally resonate with the fact that, you know, we try, right? And
Mm,
it's the self-awareness piece of once you recognize that I don't like talking to other people's actions. Once I recognize that I've done something or am doing something that doesn't align with who I think I am and want to be,
mm,
I have to start making those changes and doing that deliberate work, that intentional work. And it's hard. It
yeah,
can be frustrating. It can be demoralizing at times, but I don't think I've ever been worse for it. Right? I've
yeah,
never come out of a period of growth and said, you know what? I wish I never did that. And I look at all these, those mistakes and I say,
mhm,
they were mistakes, right? They
right.
were they were also moments. Um,
They were lessons, right?
they were
Like
lessons.
if we take every action that we've done and say, hey, like take good, take bad, take all of that out, and just say that
Mhm,
we've had lessons. Like if we can make a change in our lives
mhm,
to do different, then it was part of us. It's part of our growth. It's part of our experience, and really a big part of like I don't want to get into like therapy too much, but like a big part of it is just like learning to live in those uncomfortable moments,
mhm,
learning
mhm,
to accept yourselves in those uncomfortable spaces where there was the shift maybe like 2 years ago where it was good feels only, right? And I'm like, no, like it's not good feels only. It's let's experience all feels. Let's
mhm,
actually acknowledge, honor the human experience, and not pretend like it's all good and great. Like let's learn from it because when we don't
mhm.
acknowledge, we can't make a change.
Sheesh. Oh man. Brandon, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, man. You've dropped some heavy, heavy bars and for me personally, and of course bars being, blending action rhymes and self. And I've always appreciated um when you open up those avenues of the way you think and share them because they've been profound, right? Like you changed the way I use influence. Um,
Mm,
and so for anybody who has experienced me in the last like 8 years, thank Brandon, right? Because he said something very simple to me, and I'll share it with all of the viewers. He said, and it really it aligns. 8 years ago, this message aligns with what you shared. Even now we're more refined, right? Which is, you have had some wins here, you're influential here, but have you ever thought about asking people what they think and feel instead of just saying what you think and feel? And in that moment, I was frustrated and I heard you and I was like, yeah, all right. But from that point on, my world opened up in a different way because I started asking those questions. It became a superpower for me to ask questions like that. And really it changed again the way I use influence and really it's better understanding others, right? Like having a real sense of what others want, need, and how I can support them in their wants and needs. Likewise, providing them a value proposition of how them supplying me what I need and want helps us equally move into that direction, man. So I appreciate you. I appreciate what you offered to the world, and I appreciate what you've offered to this podcast. Um, Please tell the people where they can find you, or anything that you want them to know in closing.
Yeah. So in closing, I want to speak to what you just said first, like, and I want to let the world know that you actually were one of the biggest influences on me at the Drill Sergeant Academy as well. So I had never seen anybody who was as passionate about change, as passionate about doing things at 100%, and just like knowledgeable, like the way that you moved and you worked. I say you and Michael Rawls are the two people from the Drill Sergeant Academy that I'm like influenced me more than anybody else. So I appreciate that time. I appreciate that we were able to work together and grow together during that time.
Thank you.
Um, Thank you again for allowing me to be on the podcast. Let's see, what is my Instagram? I'm underscore Brandon, Brandon underscore William. So yeah, that's how you can reach me, or if you like, you can look me up on LinkedIn, Brandon Plunkett, and yeah, that's it.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you all for tuning in, and like and subscribe.
Freedom. Tell me why they try to take my back. Against the wall, so I never fall. No way in hell you can take my back. Fall on my side, never rely on my back. From the king on my shoulders, rely on my back. I get no rest. I can't sleep. Heart of a champion. I can't be beat. I get no rest. I can't sleep. Heart of a champion.